Mr. Van Diepen, the Iran Refined Petroleum Act of 2009 was passed overwhelmingly by the House here and the Senate, and it contains a provision which precludes a nuclear cooperation agreement with any country in which an individual or an entity is implicated in selling nuclear technology to Iran, and in which that country, of course, fails to take any effective action to stop that or to penalize the individual or the company that was involved in it. It's my understanding that the administration opposes this provision. Is this correct?
I'm sorry, Congressman, I'm not aware of the details of that particular issue, but we'll certainly get you an answer for the record on that.
Well, let's ask a hypothetical then. Should the U.S. be engaged in nuclear commerce with such a country? I'm just informing you it's in the legislation, all right? So the question is, should the United States be engaged in nuclear commerce with a country which is, in fact, failing to curtail that type of assistance to Iran?
Well, I think it probably depends a lot on the situation. I mean, for example, if you had a country that, as an act of state, was deliberately assisting another country's nuclear weapons program, I would assume that all of us would probably agree that that's not the kind of country that we'd want to have peaceful nuclear cooperation with. On the other hand, if there's a country where, contrary to the laws of that country and without the authorization of that government, individuals are engaged in various sorts of proliferation-related activities, that could be a very different situation depending upon the extent to which that country was taking action to try and stop that type of activity.
Well, the point is the administration asking for the nuclear cooperation with Russia to be reconsidered?
As I noted in my statement, Mr. Chairman, the White House is looking at that issue right now and considering, whether and when we should reintroduce the 123 agreement with Russia.
Well, going back to the legislation that we're trying to pass out of conference committee, shouldn't this agreement with Russia be held in abeyance until there's unambiguous evidence of cooperation from the Russian state on this issue of Iran, given the technology transfers, that have occurred?
Well, again, that issue's with the White House, so it's well above my pay grade, but clearly one of the things they're taking very careful consideration of is the extent to which the Russians are being cooperative with us on the Iran issue, and clearly in a number of ways they are, including having supported past UN Security Council resolutions imposing sanctions against Iran for its nuclear program, supporting the kinds of things we're doing in the NSG to put more controls on enrichment and reprocessing technology, being part of the P5+1 process that is working to resolve the Iran nuclear issue. But ultimately, the White House will make those decisions, very much including those sort of.
Yeah, I failed to note a lot of cooperation from either Russia or China on this front. But let me ask you another question. The U.S.-UAE nuclear cooperation agreement went into force last December, and there's been great congressional concern about the UAE's weak export controls. First, it was the UAE that was the principal conduit of goods and materials intended for Iran's nuclear program. Second, when we think about A.Q. Khan, this is where A.Q. Khan did much of his business in the UAE. And third, we know that the UAE has laundered Iranian money. So the administration has consistently testified about how the UAE has improved in these three areas. But I think our concerns in Congress remain. I'd like to hear from you on your assessment on the UAE.
Thank you, Congressman. And I think it's one of these situations where both things are true simultaneously. The UAE has done a lot and made a lot of improvements, but like you, we remain very watchful activities there. The government has taken some very substantial steps, not just putting in place the legislation, which is important, but in cooperating in an increasingly consistent and effective way with us on specific transactions of concern, improving implementation of UN Security Council sanctions, including financial controls against dealings with Iran, designated Iranian entities, so on and so forth. We've got a very good working relationship established with the UAE. We've been providing them with increasingly substantial export control assistance to make sure they have the wherewithal to implement and enforce the laws that are on the books. So a lot has been done, but it is a big problem that goes back a long way, and like you, we remain watchful and continue to intervene to try and keep things moving in the right direction.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.